This is a Rough Tiger production.
And you, and you, and you, and you were there. Some of it wasn't very nice, but most of it was beautiful.
Hey, hey.
Hello, and welcome back to White Men with Reading Glasses.
The world's most boring podcast.
This is Dream Idiots. My name is Morris, and the chuckle box across the way there is Bryan. Each week we get together and tell each other stories and bring you along for the ride. Bryan, how are you?
Doing great. It rained here, cleared out. We had gorgeous weather today, mid 50s to low 60s and clear and sunny. So screw you in your rain.
Yeah,
Ha,
yes,
rain and
it's
snow.
similar weather here, except it was in the 20s and snowing all day. So anyway,
God bless Texas.
that's right. You can find us on a variety of platforms, obviously, because you're listening. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell your enemies for that matter.
Hmm.
Um, where you can find us. You can soon find us on the FM dial in San Antonio, 101.5 KXEP. We don't know the time and date yet for the start. We will let you know, or maybe you do, Bryan, if there's something you picked up today that I didn't know about.
Don't know details on that yet, but by the time 106 drops, we should have that detail, I think. You can check us out at dreamidiots.com. Instagram and Facebook, we're Dream Idiots. And you can check us out, patreon.com/dreamidiots. The audio for our stuff is there actually for free. So if you want to check me, so audio is there for free. You don't have to pay to the Church of Saint Idiot, of Saint Dream Idiots, but you can. And the video of us talking it will be there if you want to pay. So there you have it.
Yes, compelling stuff.
Yes, riveting.
And we do take turns going first. This is episode 105. So, Bryan, take it away. What you got for us this week?
Well, just because the Super Bowl is coming up very, very soon, we're going to chat through a little bit of Super Bowl NFL history, and I'm going to run down a brief and sort of random, frankly, quiz for you to test your knowledge.
Oh, boy.
Some of this,
Okay.
some of this you will, because you are certainly an NFL fan. I went through a couple different websites. Sporticle's one. I went through probably three or four different websites and cherry picked questions that I thought were more interesting. I mean, career rushing, career receiving. I mean, I don't care about questions like that. And then things that I knew you would know, I yanked out. Things related to most of the things related to the Cowboys. So this is kind of a Brian Treat curated NFL quiz
Oh,
of
shit.
things that I
Okay.
things that I thought were interesting. And I'm not even going to keep score, but we can chat about these things because most of this is from games that we probably watched.
Okay.
So in no particular order, certainly not chronological order. Your favorite team, I know, the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm joking. He hates the Steelers. Won the Super Bowl in 2009.
Hmm.
Who won the MVP award for that game?
That would have been against that was against the Cardinals. Is that
Yep.
right? Roethlisberger? I'm not sure.
Nope. Santonio Holmes, wide
Okay.
receiver. Yep. He had 131 yards and a touchdown. You will probably know this. Who won Super Bowl one?
Well, technically, actually, Bryan, there was no Super Bowl one. It was retroactively named Super Bowl. That was the Packers. Packers won
Yes.
Super Bowl. Yeah.
Packers against the Chiefs, 35-10 with Bart
Hmm.
Starr.
Yep.
In 1973, Fred Dreyer became the first player to score two safeties in a single game. Which team was he on when this happened?
73 would have been the Dolphins.
Nope. LA
Was it?
Rams.
Oh,
Yep,
okay. Yeah.
Rams in a game against the Packers, and it's the only time it ever happened. It hasn't happened since.
That wasn't in the Super Bowl though.
No, it was not. It was just
Okay. Oh, okay.
a,
I thought it was in the Super Bowl. So okay. All right. Gotcha. Okay.
2013. Which quarterback broke a record after throwing a pick six in four straight games?
2013 pick six, four straight games.
hmm
I have no idea.
Matt Schaub,
Okay.
Houston Texans.
Yes.
Well done, Matt. 2017, a kicker broke the record for most field goals in a single game. He made eight.
Sebastian Janikowski.
Ah, great guess. Nope. Tennessee Titans, a guy named Rob Baronis.
I remember
He,
him.
yeah, he hit 52, 25, 21, 30, 28, 43, 39, and 29.
Wow.
And he actually, I would, I forgot to look this up. Would swear that he is Terry Bradshaw's son-in-law. I think, but then he also died in a car accident about 10 years ago.
Jesus Christ. Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
that's awful. Um, who won the Super Bowl MVP when the Packers won it all in '97?
Uh, Favre was the quarterback, but I don't
hmm
think he won it. Did he win it? I don't think he won
He
it.
did. He did not. He did not win it.
It was damn it. God, it was so long ago, Brian.
Michigan
Um
player, for a
yeah,
former
yeah, 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 yeah. His name's on the tip of my tongue. It was the receiver,
Mordecai Brown. No, shit.
three finger Mordecai Brown. No, I can't think of his name.
Desmond Howard.
Desmond Howard.
Yeah, had a 99-yard kickoff return for a touchdown. Yep, first time a special teams. I mean, he basically won it for his special teams play.
Yeah.
So 1965, a player sets the record for most touchdowns scored by a rookie. Who was that player? 1965. I'll give you a hint. Running back.
OJ Simpson?
Ooh, excellent guess. Nope.
Uh Running back. So well,
Yeah.
it wasn't Jim Brown, was it? No, he wasn't.
No.
Was he? Okay, who was it?
My first two, when I read the question, I was like, oh shit. So Jim Brown's too early. Walter Payton's too late. Gale Sayers.
Gale Sayers.
Yep. Which quarterback holds the record for most career interceptions thrown?
Most career interceptions, Brett
hmm
Favre.
Yeah, by a large margin. 336 times.
Wow.
A game that will live in infamy. 1993. The Bills came back from a 35-3 deficit in the AFC wildcard game against who?
Houston Oilers.
The
Frank Reich.
Frank Reich.
Yeah.
The Bills apparently call this the comeback game. I'm not sure what Houston fans call this game. The slit my wrist game. Yeah. I mean, I watched that game. Like, I can't believe I'm watching. God, awful, awful, awful.
Yeah, that was a rough one.
Yep.
Oh,
So, who finished their career with more regular season MVP award wins, Brett Favre or Joe Montana?
I think Brett Favre.
Yeah, he had three, and
Yeah.
Montana only had two. Which team? I remember watching this game too. Which team did the Tennessee Titans pull off the Music City Miracle against in 2000?
Well, that was Buffalo.
It was Buffalo. They won 22-16.
And when you think about it, that's kind of their revenge against
Right.
Buffalo for the comeback.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Payback.
was
Yeah.
watching I was watching both of those games. That was
Yeah.
because my dad was halfway out the door and I said, you got to come look at this because this is something shaping up here. That's
Right.
wild.
This is
Yeah.
right. Who won Super Bowl 25 in 1991?
Super Bowl 25 was the New York Giants.
The New York Football Giants
Mm-hmm.
against the Bills. Otis Anderson was the MVP.
Mm-hmm. And
Uh,
that was the wide right.
Yeah.
Buffalo could have won it in the last second, and it was a
Yep. Scott Norwood.
almost angle for angle, just the way they Buffalo lost this last game. Yeah, yeah. Or
Yeah.
well, Buffalo they would have tied it if they hit in this last game, but
Yeah, and I'm sorry. I
it was
mean,
rough.
what a lonely, awful existence being a place kicker. And I'm I'm spacing on the guy's name that missed just recently. He was getting death threats and all kinds of. I mean, come on, guys, it's a game.
The Niners used to have a kicker whose name was Wade Ritchie, and they started calling him Wide Ritchie, which I always thought was pretty mean. But anyway,
Pretty funny.
yeah.
Which NFL player which kicker rather is the all-time leader in field goals made?
Morton Anderson,
He's second.
Sebastian Janikowski. I have no idea.
Yep. Adam Vinatieri.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, 599. Which player was the only player ever to play on three consecutive Super Bowl winning teams?
Haley,
Nope.
Dion.
Nope.
I have no idea. Then who am I
Ken
missing?
Norton. Ken Norton Jr.
Ken Norton. Ken Norton. That's
Yeah,
right.
that's probably who you were thinking of
27, 27, 28, 29. Right?
right. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yep.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So Donovan McNabb was selected number 2 in the 99 draft. Which quarterback was picked ahead of him?
Alex Smith. I don't
Oh,
know.
good guess. No. Uh, Remember Tim Couch?
Ah, yeah. Yep.
He had a really severe Demarcus Russell problem. Yeah, awful, awful, awful. He was terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, he burned out real fast.
I had his jersey.
Oh, really?
Yes.
For a short time.
Mhm.
So
He-
which how many quarterbacks named Manning have won Super Bowls?
How many quarterbacks named Manning have won Super Bowls?
Hmm.
Well,
In the Man, it's not a trick question. In the Manning family, I'm not saying there's Buford Manning who
mm,
won, who
well,
won it in 1990.
Archie never won one even as a backup. I don't think so. That would
Right.
be two, right?
Yeah. So
Eli and
two. Yeah. So
Eli
two.
and,
Yeah.
and
Two
Peyton.
each. Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Who was the first ever defensive player to win MVP of the Super Bowl?
Well, let's see.
I included this one because I thought you might. This is obscure enough, but you might know it.
I think it's Chuck Howley.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
He's
you're
also he's
right.
also the he's also the only player to win from a losing team.
Right, right. Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
He had
Cowboys Colts Super Bowl five. Yeah.
yeah, he had two interceptions and forced a fumble. And I'm not sure he probably didn't even want the damn award. Like, yeah, just what? Okay, whatever. Where did Jerry Rice end his career?
The Oakland Raiders,
Nope.
Denver Broncos.
Technically, that's correct. He played briefly for Seattle, and then he signed with the
Oh, that's right.
Broncos, and he signed with the Broncos, but he never played. In '92, which team started the season 0-4, but still went on to win their division?
In what year?
'92.
Cowboys? I don't know.
'92. It's the San Diego Chargers. 0-4, finished
Oh
11-5.
yeah, yeah.
Won the AFC West and then beat the Chiefs in the wild card. But obviously did not go all the way.
Was that when Shardy Mottenheimer was their coach?
Yeah, this is probably Stan Humphries, or Stan Humphries was with them when they went to when they went to their one Super Bowl 2 years later.
Excuse
Or
me.
maybe could have been even the next year. I don't know. Stu lost my. Here we go. The Giants retired number 56 in honor of
Lawrence Taylor.
mhm, who I bumped into in the Miami airport one time
And you
20 years ago.
survived.
Yeah, and
Amazing. Yeah.
right, yep. Who won Super Bowl 10 in 1976?
Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yep, against the Cowboys. 21-17. Lynn Swann MVP.
Yeah. Yeah.
What year did the first Madden game come out? And it was just called John Madden Football.
Christ. I don't know. I don't sports video games. I don't give a shit. 86. I don't know. The
Ah,
Bears. I
you're
don't
you're super close. 88. The only reason I mentioned this is because I this was like a Windows DOS game that came on floppy disks,
know.
and so I think I may have had this game. So
Hello, Mr. Madden. You're good at turning me on. Thank you.
right. It's fourth down and one. Okay. So quick quiz here on NFL logos.
Okay.
So I've heard this question asked more than once, and I'm going to say that there are, and I dispute the answers I have heard. So I'm going to make it a tiny bit easier. Um, so when you think through and picture an NFL logos, um, according to one source, there's only one logo that is just one color. I think there are three logos that are just one color, and not including white. So a primary color plus white or primary color plus blue, whatever, right? Which name the NFL logos that are just one color or one color and white. And I'm going to say that there are three.
One color.
Hmm.
Um, half the Pittsburgh Steelers helmet. Um, one color plus white.
Hmm.
Okay. Um, all right. I gotta go through the colors, I guess. Hang on. Um, I'm not even sure I understand the question. Wait a minute. Let me go back and so they're saying it's just one
So
color.
so an example. The Green Bay Packers logo is a white G on a forest green background, but there's also like a yellow ring around the green, right?
Oh, the
If you
logo, the actual logo itself, not the
right,
helmet.
the logo
Oh,
itself.
okay. That's different.
So if you took the yellow ring around that, technically that would qualify as just green and white.
Would the Browns count?
The Browns, according to the NFL website, they don't even have a logo. Their logo is just is a picture of their blank helmet. So technically not.
Okay. Let's see. The Falcons?
Nope. Falcons are
Ca- the
mostly black with a touch of red
the
on them.
Cowboys?
Yeah, Cowboys.
Okay, Cowboys.
Cowboys in my mind qualify. There's a white stripe around the edge.
No, I guess it depends on which Jets logo you use.
Well,
It's
yeah,
just white. It's just white lettering for the Jets. So
right. So the Jets in my mind is the second one, and third one is technically just like the Cowboys is the Colts is their default logo is
just the
the
blue blue
blue
horseshoe.
horseshoe with the little white dots where the nails are. So what one version of this question I heard somewhere, the answer was just Jets. Everyone else had two colors. And looking at them, yeah, these are all one color.
That's a weird question.
Yeah, it's random.
It confuses and angers me. I don't like it.
Okay, along the same lines, many of the
Okay.
logos have a face, right? The face of an animal, a
Mhm.
face, right?
Sure.
Um, Discounting, setting aside, okay, the face on the Raiders logo is facing out.
Yes.
Okay, if you want to say that the Texans logo is a face, it's either facing out or it's facing right. If it
Okay.
even
Yeah.
if it, okay, all other logos that have a face to the right, with the exception of one. There is one logo with a face that faces to the left. Who is it?
Damn you, Brian.
Da, da, da.
Um. So they all face to the right
Hmm.
except one. The Patriots?
Nope, Patriots. The little Patriot dude is facing to the right. Seahawks, the bird's facing to the right.
Well, doesn't it depend on which way you're holding the helmet?
No.
I don't know. I'm confused and angered.
If you look down the official list of logos, um, Vikings, um, Jaguars, Broncos, Cardinals. They're all facing right. The Philadelphia Eagles is facing left.
Okay.
I don't know why they would insist on being different, but whatever.
All right.
So you and I were both pulling for the Lions to go all the way, and unfortunately, it's the goddamn Niners and the fucking Chiefs. Oh well. Um, I'm sure you can name the four teams or the three other teams besides the Lions who have never been to the Super Bowl.
The Browns, the Texans, and the Jaguars.
Correct. And then a little bit harder, name the other eight teams who have been to the Super Bowl but lost.
So they've never won it, is what you're saying? They've been, but they've
Correct.
never won it.
Right.
The Bills,
Hmm.
the Falcons, the Panthers. How many is that? The
Three.
the Vikings,
Yep.
the Chargers,
Hmm.
the Cardinals. How many is that?
That's six.
Uh, all the NFC's good. Um, already said the Bills. NFC East is good. Oh, Falcons. Did I say the
You
Falcons?
you
Falcons
said
have never
Falcons,
won.
yeah. Yeah,
Oh, I did.
yep.
Oh, I said Falcons, Panthers together. So that would be, let's see. Well, the Lions have never won it, but they've also never been, so that doesn't count. Boom, boom, boom. They're good. Chargers. The Bengals.
Correct. One more.
Oh, the Titans.
Yeah. Very cool. See, I would if you gave me like an hour, I could figure that out, but my memory of that was not as good as it used to be. Anyway, just because big game coming up, I don't give a damn who wins the game, if I'm honest. But our old friend Mr. Irrelevant is the quarterback for the Niners.
I
Good old
guess
Bryan.
I'm more or less rooting against the Niners, so
Yeah, it's really hard to.
I'm
I mean,
rooting for
I
rooting
still
for the
just
Chiefs.
yeah,
So
still I always sort of like the Chiefs because they won the Super Bowl the year I was born. I don't know why. I mean, so I'll probably have to pull for the Chiefs as well. But anyway, just a
and
little.
here's where we reveal that you were just 4 years old because you were born the year Super Bowl 54 was played. So that's when they last won it, right? No, they won it last year, but
They were last year, and then right,
54, yeah, because they
right,
won it 50 years apart. Yeah.
right. Yep. Anyway, there you have it. Some NFL trivia,
Cool.
which you are much better at than I than I would have ever ever been.
I'll give you one.
What's that?
What Super Bowl gave us the only co MVPs? And who were they?
Oh, co MVPs.
There's only one. Well, there's two, but they're in the same game.
Huh. I want to say it was fairly recent.
It was
Like
not.
it was not. Okay. Hmm.
Mm.
I was thinking it was like one of the Ravens wins with Jamal Lewis or something. Um, I don't know.
It was Harvey Martin and Randy White for the Cowboys Super Bowl
Oh,
12.
oh wow.
That's why the Cowboys have eight eight MVPs because they've got the two co MVPs from one Super Bowl and the Super
Uh,
Bowl from the MVP from the Super Bowl from the losing team. So
oh wow.
yeah, not
Yeah.
eight. No, they've got two, three, four, five. Yeah, they've got eight MVPs. Yeah,
Oh, cool.
yeah.
All right.
It's time for the Dream Idiot's curse word of the week.
Have a quick curse word for you before I
Does
move
it
on.
involve football?
It does not. Curse word this week is slobivore. I know.
Slobivore?
Slobivore. When
I
you
had
think
no
about it,
idea.
it's pretty just anyone and unfortunately I probably do this with all my driving around, doing my day job. A person who eats things quickly in their car in a sloppy way, typically through a drive-through. Slobivore. Yeah. So yeah,
Well,
ram
guilty as
feeding
charged.
ram feeding a burger while shifting shifting gears with the other hands. Yeah.
Guilty as charged.
Right.
Time for my story. Bryan,
Hmm.
what do we say often that we are not here on Dream Idiots? We are not a blank blank podcast.
True crime.
We are not a true crime podcast. This is true crime adjacent, perhaps. And this is a missing persons case. And I realize that there are more valuable missing person cases to study, to look at.
Mm.
For example, the hundreds upon hundreds of missing and murdered Indigenous women in North America alone. However, in the purview of our podcast, there are more worthy podcasts, I guess, that tackle this subject as its only subject. And I encourage you to look at that, listeners, if you're interested in some of the things that have been done in the efforts of missing and murdered Indigenous women. There's a lot of great shows out there. They're doing good work and helping to close cases. But I want to look back at a very, very old case. And this is the strange case of Ronald Tammen. You ever heard about this, Bryan?
No.
Okay. Ronald Tammen was a young man of many talents. In his sophomore year at Miami University in Oxford, Ohio, he was a varsity wrestler his sophomore year. That's pretty impressive. He played upright bass in a jazz band, and I love the name. The Campus Owls was the name of that group. And he worked as a resident advisor in his dorm, which I didn't know you could do as a sophomore in some places. I guess you can. That was always reserved for seniors, I thought. But
Hmm.
he was a resident advisor in his dorm, Fisher Hall. He was born July 23rd, 1933, in Maple Heights, Ohio, a suburb of Cleveland. Now, do you know where Miami University is, Bryan? You
No.
know it's in Ohio, but you know where?
No.
It's in a southwest corner of Ohio, almost as far away from Cleveland as you can get and still be in the state. That's not a judgment, it's merely an observation.
So
So Cleveland's away from one corner.
down by Cincy somewhere.
It's west of Cincinnati.
Yep.
Yes. Now, if you look at a picture of Ronald Tammen, he looks kind of like a tall, younger, slimmer, beardless version of Mandy Patinkin with a crew cut. That's a compliment. He's a good looking fella. He's a tall, handsome guy. On the cold spring evening of Sunday, April 19th, 1953, Ronald was studying in his dorm room at Fisher Hall. We think we know this because at 8 p.m., he had to visit the hall manager for a fresh set of bed sheets. Don't get excited. It's because some freshman wag had left a dead fish in his bed as a prank. I've seen references to this hall manager as the hall mother. I know that some universities had adults living in residence halls with students as, quote, dorm parents, dorm fathers, or dorm mothers at the time. Having been both a college student and a parent, I could not think of a worse job. Having to oversee a group of young men. I can't
Completely agree,
imagine.
right?
Just disgusting, disgusting job. As far as it is known, the hall manager is the last person to have seen Ronald that evening, but we'll return to this later because that may not be the case. At 10:30 that evening, Ronald's roommate Chuck Findlay, that's Findlay, not the owner of the Oakland A's, Charlie Finley, totally different person, returned to Fisher Hall to find the lights and radio on, with an open psychology textbook on Ronald's desk, as well as his coat, his keys, and his wallet. So he comes back into his dorm room. It's like he stepped out to smoke a cigarette, grab a cup of coffee, or do whatever, right?
Right.
Ronald's 1938 Chevy was in the nearby parking lot with his upright bass in the back seat.
Hmm.
Chuck thought that perhaps Ronald had spent the night at his fraternity house. He was a member of Delta Tau Delta, but that was not the case. He checked in with the frat brothers the next day, and they had not seen Ronald the day before. Oxford PD and the Butler County Sheriff's Office worked in tandem on the search for Ronald. Miami students, particularly Delts, Fisher Hall residents, and members of the ROTC on campus, combed the campus itself. Even inmates from local jails helped in the search, which that had to be just a shit circus, keeping those guys together. Navigating the Houston Woods, and that's Houston spelled Hueston, Houston Woods, an area 5 miles northeast of Oxford, which would become a state park in 1957. The FBI dropped in here and there after Ronald's mother called the Cleveland office. For some reason, the FBI had Ronald's fingerprints taken when he was in the second grade. I don't know why, assuming that he's probably 7 or so. I don't know why they would do this unless it was some kind of show and tell thing, or they were offering to fingerprint kids I don't think they had that
Right.
programmed that early in the 1940s, but for some reason they had Ronald's fingerprints on files. I've heard of doing
And
that.
yeah, and don't your fingerprints, I mean, as your hands get bigger, do your fingerprints change? I don't know.
I I mean, I'm guessing that it's just kind of like what's that similar and congruent thing we learn in geometry? It's the
Right.
same shape, but it
It's
just gets bigger.
it's
So
bigger.
I
Maybe.
don't know. Ronald's draft status changed over the summer when he disappeared. That is of 1953. And when he failed to appear for his physical, the FBI opened up a second case, a selective service case violation, because hey, you didn't
They
show up
didn't
for your
show up,
physical.
right? Right.
That was eventually closed in 1955. But by Friday, April 24th of 1953, not even a week after his disappearance, university officials had their conclusion. Ronald had developed amnesia and wandered off, just like in a good movie of the week on TV. Suddenly developed amnesia and just wandered away.
Right. So they're just guessing.
Well, I mean, I can think of instances where you might develop that, like if you have a psychotic break,
Right.
and he
Head
is of the
injury.
right he is of the right age for that, right? To develop some kind of disorder. He's at 19, so it could happen. This seemed to be validated in June of 1953 when a woman named Clara Spivey, living in 7 Mile, Ohio, this was some 10 miles east of Oxford, reported a strange encounter she had the midnight of Ronald's disappearance. A young man matching his description, clad in a jacket way too light for the cold spring night, came to her door asking for directions. He appeared to be disoriented with, quote, a smudge on his face, as though he'd been changing a tire on an automobile. She gave him directions to a bus stop, not realizing that the directions she gave him were for a line that was no longer operating at that time of night, or it had changed its route system. She wasn't sure, but she realized later that, oh, I gave him the wrong directions. This was further evidence for the university officials backing up their amnesia claim. That, oh, clearly he was disoriented and had amnesia. In August of 1953, a housing official, and I'm assuming this was somehow university related, he claims to have seen Ron in a hotel in New York State. He says he saw a group of young men dining in this restaurant attached to the hotel, and he recognized Ron Tammen. Did not approach him. Don't know why. Fisher Hall was eventually demolished in 1978, and a search of the debris for remains turned up absolutely nothing. What happened to Ronald remains a mystery some 70 years later. To this day, students in Miami refer to Ronald as, quote, the Phantom of Oxford. There's a great website called ronaldtammen.com with a landing page titled A Good Man is Hard to Find. It's by a woman named Jennifer Wegner, Miami class of 1980. She has put together an incredible wealth of information on the Tammen case, straying very far afield. She's really gone down a ton of rabbit holes on this case. There's a few interesting items that Wegner points out to which complicate the official narrative of Ronald's disappearance. I wanted to go over a few of these, and if listeners are so inclined, check out this website. It's a bit wonky. I'm not sure it's been updated in a while. You might want to run a virus check because it's really slow. When you check it out, that I'm not disparaging her, but I think it's been a while since it's been updated. But here's some interesting items that come up on this website. Number one, 5 months before, in 1952, Ron visited Dr. Boone, the Butler County coroner, and requested a blood test. And I think this blood test was to confirm his blood group. Boone found this unusual. People rarely did this in that day to just get their blood tested. Boone contacted the university officials, thinking this might have something to do with his disappearance. An illness, perhaps it was a paternity test. Someone was saying, "Hey, you're the father of my baby." Boone was dismissed by the university officials. Two, there was a firsthand account that Ronald was actually at a song practice at Delta House that evening, which would completely contradict what the fraternity brothers had said about him being there that night. That he was actually at a song practice at the Delta House fraternity from 8 to 10 p.m. and was walking back with two freshman fraternity brothers. They said goodnight to him and continued on to their hall when Ronald broke off from them to head up to Fisher Hall, where he resided. Three, Ronald was seen sitting in a car with a woman outside of Fisher Hall, then was driven away in that same car. Four, the psychology textbook has come into question. Some sources indicate that Ronald had dropped his psych course early in the term. Why was it even on his desk? He wasn't taking psychology classes anymore. giving us the idea that perhaps that whole room was staged. They just picked a
Right.
textbook for a class he wasn't taking anymore. Speculation abounds as to his why he might have disappeared, where he might have gone. Um, there's two main threads to this that I kind of want to pick at for a little bit. Number one, Robert was in danger of losing his college deferment for the draft. We still had the draft back then. He had cut hours and he was no longer considered a full-time student. And perhaps there were rumors that he was either bisexual or gay, and that if he had made it into the army, he would have been found out. This was the time of the Lavender Scare.
Right.
So perhaps he pulled a disappearing act to prevent that from happening. Number two, and this is where things get really, really weird, and this can take you down all kinds of rabbit holes. There was mention of professors canvassing for students to participate in a hypnosis study in the psychology department. One of his professors, Dr. St. Clair Switzer, may have had connections to the CIA's Operation Artichoke. You familiar with Operation Artichoke?
No, not at all.
This has to do with the use of hypnosis and mind-altering drugs for the purposes of interrogation.
Hmm.
This eventually morphed into, can you guess what?
MK Ultra.
Project MK Ultra.
Yeah.
And that he may have become involved in MK Ultra, and for some reason or another, Dr. Switzer felt that Ronald Tammen may have been a good candidate to become a CIA operative, and or through the course of his hypnosis sessions, the drug use, perhaps his secret of his homosexuality or bisexuality came out,
Right.
and he was furthered into CIA as a CIA operative to both give him an out from his military service and a way to further his career as a CIA agent. To this day, absolutely no trace of Ronald Tammen has ever been found some 71 years later.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It is one of the oddest missing person cases I've ever come across. I'll tell you the sources real quick and then just a few more things about it. RonaldTammen.com by Jennifer Wenger, that she's the class of 1980. Miami University website, the alumni page, has a little story about the Phantom of Oxford. Wikipedia info on Ronald Oxford in general and the Houston Woods, and Google Maps for info on 7 Mile, how exactly far away it is, 7 Mile, Ohio, how far away it is from Oxford. Now, here's the thing. The Houston Woods, and this is where where Occam's razor comes into play for me. Houston Woods is 5 miles northeast of Oxford. So if you picture that at the point of a triangle, and 7 Mile as one point and Oxford as another, the state park that stands there now is 3,000 acres. 3,000 acres of a variety of terrain, woods, hills, water. That's a lot of territory that someone can get lost in.
Right.
So as much as I would like to believe that Ronald's out there somewhere, well, he'd be in his 90s, that maybe he lived a full and great life. Maybe he did have some kind of break, wander off into the night. Maybe that fish in his bed was the last straw.
And something snapped, right?
Wandered off into the night. And I mean, it's a cold spring night in Ohio. Who knows? But 3,000 acres? When I first heard the story, I didn't realize that these Houston Woods and what would become the Houston Woods State Park, that's a lot of territory, man.
Right.
It's a lot of places you can get lost in. 3,000 acres is big. So I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. And there's a lot more rabbit holes we could go down, but in order for that to happen, I'd have to do 3, 4, 5 parts to this. And I really don't want to do it. I kind of want to open it up for speculation, but
Right.
What's your take on it? Just by what I've told you.
I mean, yes, I am always, when stories like this pop up in the news, I am always the one who is like, okay, what's the most likely outcome? There is a story that you and I, which I won't mention here, but there's a story that you and I have talked about offline that is a Texas story, where law enforcement speculated about all kinds of things that seem completely insane, and like maybe just shooting for a more logical, reasonable explanation is best. But you know, over the years of, as true crime podcasts have kind of exploded, I'm definitely way more aware of, missing people notices, and I think in this country like 100,000 people go missing every year,
Mhm.
which is completely. I mean, just think about how big that is. Um, and sometimes it's accidents, but very often it's awful. I mean, it's criminal, right? So someone has done something awful, and so it's definitely you know hard to think that you can have an impact. But if you see a notice that says missing in your city, keep an eye peeled for a Toyota blank with license plate, whatever. Just on a low level, it might be worth keeping an eye out just in case you might
Mhm.
you might be able to solve one of these awful problems because the resources don't exist to chase all these things down. And people just poof vanish sometimes. And I don't know. It's worth having a low level diligence in my mind to see if you can't, help someone out, help someone's family
And
out.
we do know now that in the 60s at least, the FBI and the CIA were fucking around on college campuses. We know
Right.
that MK Ultra had a foothold at Harvard. I mean, Ted Kaczynski was part of that. We know that FBI's COINTELPRO was on there to keep an eye on leftist student groups.
Hmm.
We know they were there. I mean, that's not speculation. So, again, at the cost of ignoring recent missing person cases, and I hate to do it, but I've wanted to do this one since we started the podcast, just because it's one of those things where one minute they're there and the next minute it's like, wait, what just happened?
Right.
Where
Right. Right.
um
Right.
where did they go? And there's it was so much easier to disappear back then than it is
Mhm.
today, right? If you chose
Well,
to.
yes, which in my mind makes it even more harrowing the fact that it happens today.
Mhm.
I mean, so I have I think you and I have a fairly similar view of law enforcement and their resources and their motivations and their follow through, and they are aided greatly by the fact that the average citizen, if you live in a populated area, you are captured on cameras. I think an average of like 22 times a day or 25 times a day by Ring cameras and the gas station camera and whatever, right? And so that must help law enforcement immeasurably when something happens, especially kidnapping, missing person. And yet, even with that, even with 6 trillion cameras everywhere, 100,000 people just in this country poof vanish every year. So, how is that even possible? Just blows my mind.
Yeah. I hope no one's listening to this right before they go to sleep. Yeah.
I know, right? If you do, I mean,
Yeah.
it's interesting that you would mention indigenous people and crimes against that community. So I do have a story that relates to an indigenous person who is currently missing. Um, if these types of stories interest you at all, doing some research, just Googling Deb Holland is the woman who from New Mexico. She
Oh
was
yeah, 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 yeah.
U.S. Congress because New Mexico, I think, only has three representatives in Congress, three or four. She was in that role, and then Biden named her Secretary of the Interior, and she works in this space because she is indigenous. And this is a really weird. I mean, it's just another great example of blatant nasty racism and this community being victimized by virtue of the fact that they are viewed by some people in this country as second class citizens that are expendable. So lots of interesting stories, but lots of interesting work being done to try to help these communities out as well, because I mean, they're citizens too, they're human beings too, and they deserve support. So do some digging and research into that. It's very interesting.
Yeah, and you can also check out websites like Project Namus, which is a good resource for checking out missing person cases in the U.S. Because even as a kid, like all of the stuff in the '70s as a kid, the decade of weirdness that was like Bermuda Triangle and
Loch
Bigfoot
Ness monster.
and the Loch Ness monster and all the UFOs and all the crazy shit that came out of the 70s. The one that always stuck with me was like Amelia Earhart, Judge Crater, DB Cooper. Where the hell did these people go? And missing people cases have stuck with me all this time because it's just, and 100,000 that go missing a year. It's a shocking number. And when you read about some of the cases that happen on and near reservations and tribal lands, it's it's horrifying.
Yeah.
So yeah, check out those resources, use those,
Yep.
and as that great philosopher Robert Stack once said, maybe you can help us solve a mystery.
I actually have a friend of mine. Um, I probably shouldn't even say this much, but a friend of mine had a family member go missing when he was a child. Um, poof gone. And I have been pondering whether or not it would be appropriate to tell that story on this podcast at some point. Um, but a sibling vanished.
Hmm.
So it's way more common than you would possibly think. So um, be diligent, pay attention.
And as we always say, be good to each other.
More soon. Bye.
Bye.
This is a Rough Tiger production.
Bong bong,
Mhm.
Brian.
Bong bong.
Bong bong.
Bong bong. Good.